Yeah, he wants to, motion at the meeting begin.
Make a motion, commence our planning commission meeting on
At
27 July.
Hey, it's 7:16.
You want this? So you can-
Yeah, please, real
Yeah.
quick, just for a minute. Okay. I was going to recommend we jump to two of the permits first. I think you've got it lined up for that. We have Fifth
Should be
Street and then
first.
8th Street.
Yep.
Okay,
Should be pretty straightforward.
so let's take a look at that Fifth Street one.
Can you pull all that stuff up up there that we're looking at?
Yes.
Can, I'm sorry, I'm making a mess of your table.
Which one?
Fifth
Street. Fifth Street.
Oh, you,
Do we already
Even better.
run through the minutes?
no, we're gonna do the minutes last. We're
Got
gonna
it. Okay.
get the people.
We've got a couple permits we can move. Let's hit those first. All right, so now this one,
So Fifth Street came before you guys back in 2018, went to the Board of Appeals, got a Board of Appeals approval.
side setbacks, right?
Yep, and
8 to 5.
the property wasn't built. The submittal is exactly the same, the site plan is exactly the same. No regulations for anything that would have been required then or not required now. It's not in a critical area. It's not in the floodplain. The water quality management plan is also attached.
And he's got a pretty good site plan pulled together there.
Yeah, what they did was they put it in a new format. And so everything's all in one place. So it's a little easier to go over everything.
Yeah, I went down. Yeah, I was just checking down
Yeah.
today on that, so that's a nice, you could thank the architect on that one. That's good. That's good layout.
Yeah,
for
that's Nick from COA is
Okay,
put them together that way now.
really, that's very helpful. I can go right through the site plan.
Well, it's
check them.
easy to be able to see everything you need to see as far as requirements.
This was previously approved by water quality management,
Water quality management plan,
which was the rain barrel.
rain barrels, the
The,
site plantings, mulch beds.
I would
So this
remember-
lot floats from front to back
They're on
8
the
feet
lot, so they really
from
making
the
it
sidewalk to the alley.
some
And they're adding 600 square foot of impervious
really tight.
area to increase the size of the
True.
house. And under the rain barrel maintenance, essentially tells you don't use the rain barrels during the winter time,
Pretty much.
right? So that means all that water gets dumped down the gutter and out into the yard,
Into the mulch beds, right?
into the mulch pits. And with it being a significant grade front to back, is there any concern about runoff going into the
So the
neighbor's property behind them?
No, so with erosion sediment control and with the location of the lot, there's actually not even a requirement for anything. The water quality management plan was done just as an enhancement. Right, because it's not in the critical area, or so none of that's even required. And so they did exactly the same way that they did the house next door. Is gonna be the same layout. There hasn't been any issues with runoff or flooding on the houses along Fourth Street.
Okay. And do you know whether they're gonna be taking down that tree in the front, right on the property line?
Nick,
Is not the worst.
Yes, I'm here.
yeah, the tree in the front of that house, do you know if that's coming down or not? I don't have the
I
plan
don't
in
know
front
whose
of me.
property it's on. It's right on the fence line.
Is it on the left or the right side?
Looking at the house, it's on the left.
On the left.
Right, I
Um,
mean, it potentially give you a hard time trying to swing a crane there.
Yeah, that tree will probably keep coming down. And then I know that they're also going to be doing work on the house next door eventually. We're working on that now too. So that tree will most likely have to come down. I did want to make a comment about, the impervious area. The house plan itself footprint is actually just a little bit bigger than the existing. The increase in impervious area is actually mainly due to the proposed driveway.
Okay, but you said there's no real concern with the water.
No, the house to the right is basically the same layout, same size lot. And they haven't had any excessive flooding to the rear on the houses on 4th Street.
So
from
in
that.
this house, where the gutter, it dumps out onto the ground, you can see that it's channeled right through the
Right.
backyard. So, I mean.
Well, this house will have mulch beds and the rain barrels that it'll go into, which should prevent that from happening. And like even in the winter, when they open them up, going through the mulch beds will slow it down as well, so the erosion shouldn't take place.
My question is the property on the left side, this existing building, which I think
The whole block is owned by.
by John Scott, I mean, it is on the property line, so
We're looking at lot 47.
yeah,
Okay.
It is now.
yeah, I'm just, 5 feet is narrow.
I mean, 5 feet it is, but for the 37.5 foot lot, that's. What the board had recommended.
It is now. That's the distance.
Yeah, and just to
5
make,
feet.
just to make a comment, we actually are going to be coming in next month for site plan approval to replace that house on lot 47 to get the proposed house off the property line and move the house centered on the lot.
Okay,
And you put another new one on the corner. so.
Thank you,
Also
Nick.
wanted to make a comment that on this site plan that we're looking at now for lot 46R, the driveway is actually sloped towards the road the way we have it designed. So the water will actually slope from the front of the house towards the road. Basically all the water on the sides and in the back part of the house is the only part that's going to be draining to the back side of the property.
From 21 down to 16, whatever.
Is lot 47 25 feet?
That is a 25-foot wide piece of property, correct?
Do we get landscape plans with any of these?
They're on the water quality management, so you can see where the mulch beds and the natural plantings will go.
since this had to go through the appeals board before, because it's not to our setbacks, and that was so old, two thousand
It'll
eighteen.
go back to the board.
It's got to go back to the Board of Appeals, so I think that's where we are.
Okay, so, but we have to make a recommendation.
You make the
So we
recommendation.
can make a recommendation to accept or, recommend going for or accepting a variance that they had asked for earlier.
Right.
Right.
Should be in the notes on the bottom.
Not getting any cooler. is it?
No, it's up to 74 now.
They show the height of those trees.
Oh,
Oh,
Are they the new baby trees or are they gonna be?
I'm sorry.
And this is a complete demo and rebuild, all the way foundations, everything, so everything's new.
Yeah.
on the next one.
No, on this,
No.
on Fifth Street.
Oh,
don't think he's got a tree spec in there.
I have a question about
proposed.
environmental. When they do demo,
not gonna-
is
it's not
there
gonna be a real-
any remediation of any kind or survey
To be kind of-
for hazardous material before they do a demo project? Or asbestos, lead-based paint
The county addresses all the time, and they get the
What?
for
demo
demo
permit
permit.
from them, yeah. And they'll look at the age of the house, whether there's asbestos. Like these two houses that are being renovated down here that had asbestos control done.
Yeah.
So if you, when they first started, you saw the plastic from the outside, they were coating everything so that they could go over.
They
top
do any
of it.
Does that
testing on the
only flood a
ground.
lot?
I don't think the state
Oil.
requires it.
No.
I mean, we're cutting down trees right and left in this town, and then everybody's complaining about the flooding. So we're removing trees and then we're putting other trees in. I'd like to know how big those new trees are gonna be, so we can figure out how long it's gonna take them to get to maturity to do the work of the tree to cut them down.
Nick, did you hear that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Go ahead.
If we are removing mature trees and then we are planting trees in effect to replace those trees, albeit in a different spot on the lot, how big are those trees going to be?
Well, on the legend, you'll see that for that tree symbol, it's a proposed understory trees. So those are usually, if you look in the Calvert County Native Species Plant List, usually the understory trees consist of like red maples, silver maples, red buds.
You guys want-
Okay, but how big is the tree going to be when you plant it?
Oh, usually, it's like, 1 inch or one to 1.5 inch caliper. And I think they're usually about, anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall. But they're very small. They're not, they're going to be growing for quite a while before they get to a point where they could be an issue.
And those are what are required by the state.
Red
For the
maples.
critical area, there's nothing required for this lot. This is all in addition.
Was the tree, the canopy we see, that's, the trunk is over on the other lot.
It's the neighbors. The only tree that's kind of bordered, where's their property is this one that's right on the fence line in the front yard. And it's a bowed and, tree that would need to come down anyway. That's why I asked the question.
Well, and a lot of times the trees we take down, sadly, they're large trees, but on the other hand, half of them are causing damage to water lines and sewer lines and the sidewalks, and they're just nice trees, but wrong places
Have our tree permit in place,
for.
removing trees?
So trees on private property go through me, trees that are owned by the town go through the tree committee.
Is it inappropriate?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, so the name of the game is biomass, not necessarily trees. Talk to the tree environmental people, there's a couple of things that you have to consider. First of all, on the engineering side of it, you gotta ensure what the rooting system is and whether the town, the space is able to, accommodate that. What does that mean? You need a planner to tell you what that is, because there are specific standards about that. So it's not that you take down a tree per se, it's what you replace the tree with and whether the entire system, tree system and the root system can fit into our environment here on the bay. Talk to the tree committee people, because the name of the game is biomass. You don't have to replace a tree with a tree, but you do have to, if you're environmentally conscious, replace it with shrubs or something else that's going to allow the same sort of, we're worried about flooding, same kind of absorption. So, when we did this, and I use the word we with quotes, when we did this town centuries ago, whenever it started, if we knew then what we knew now, we never would have planted all the trees that we have, because they just don't fit for whatever reason. I can't be oversimplistic, and I apologize. So the tree issue is bigger than just, we got a permit to replace a tree with a tree. We're gonna pull down a tree and replace it with a tree. And then we don't enforce that because we just don't enforce that. is bigger than that. When you start looking at environmental.
If you also
standards.
look at the plans, they're bringing in 23 large shrubs. So that'll buffer.
And I can send you the formula that critical area uses for replacement. So it's not just one for one. Sometimes it, and like I said, and they're categorized by like understory trees, large shrub, small shrub. And so outside of the critical area, there's actually no call for replacement of trees that are removed or vegetation. And inside the critical area in the IDA, intensely developed area, there's not a mandate to replace one for one trees. There's only a mandate to provide a water quality management plan that shows that they can address the stormwater.
Also red maples or maples, they love water, so they'll soak up the water. That's a good thing.
Oh, very much. Much appreciated.
Someone want to make a proposal that, not me.
A motion to approve and move to the,
Approve as submitted and recommendation to approve, to make recommendation to the Board of Appeals to approve setbacks as designed.
I second.
I can't make the motion.
No. We'll make a motion to forward to the Board of Appeals a recommendation to reinstate the 8 to 5 setback variation from 2018. Clarify that it does meet, we are clarifying that it does meet the water quality management plan.
Yep.
Meets the county standards. And I guess the only
then
thing I
they're
want
going to-
clarification, is the big tree coming down on this or not?
it's about, I mean, here's a picture of it here, and it's not part of this plan, but I guess in terms of the.
At some
Property
point, it's
next
gonna be
door.
coming down when they,
Will.
When they start
when
building.
they submit the plans to tear down the one next door and build a new house
Okay.
there, it's gonna have
Again,
to.
I review permits that are, and I don't see a tree removal. I don't see the big canopy one listed as coming out there. This is,
That,
and I don't see
the
it on
big
the-
canopy one is on the adjoining property, so it's
Okay,
not
so we
part of
can't
this
take
permit,
that.
not part of
Well,
this.
I mean, he could, Mr. Scott could always come in and just submit a tree removal permit.
again, I'm
Yeah,
looking at the permit in front of me. Okay, so that tree or large canopy is on the adjacent property. So he's not taking it down under this building permit.
under that building permit now.
Because I've looked at the construction
Right.
sequence, it doesn't have it in there.
Right,
So I'm just clarifying.
yeah, no.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I'll give you, I'm out of town tomorrow, but I'll give you a call on my way to where I'm going and figure out what happened with Greenwood.
Sounds good, Rick. I'll talk to you then.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Four one one four 8th Street.
Is this an addition?
It's a pop top.
Yeah, there's a small addition in the front, a little tiny addition in the back. It's then it's a smaller lot.
None of our business, but I guess that bathroom's being built on piers instead of a foundation. That'd be a cold bathroom. What is the front building restriction line? Because it scales that the house is 9 feet 9 from the front property line.
Should be 10 feet, I think, if you look at the. Go down. We have it listed there. That front right corner.
That front right corner scales to be 9 foot 9. Where they pulled the measurement is where it is angled away from the property line. If you take that corner there,
Yeah, the question is.
that one is 9
Here,
foot 9.
Here.
And so the front property line is, that variance is something that the Board of Appeals is able to grant. And if you go online and look, it is still within the average of the front foot setbacks for that street. We'll get a picture up. I can get anything at all work for me.
You got existing. And they're building it out.
Yeah, they're basically filling in the deck area.
Pieces parts all.
Yeah. That is the front deck, right?
It's a new build.
No, it's just,
Not doing the foundations, he's staying on the,
no, it's,
But he's building out on the
yeah,
side.
it's coming out here.
so if you,
You could hash
so
that.
if you see, this is the house now,
Right.
and this is the house now. So he's adding this.
Messing up your, nice neat.
I was gonna go in pencil, but it's okay.
Sorry, I can give you a new one.
Okay.
It's all right.
And
So,
then there's the second,
So this is already existing and
So the-
that is already existing.
yeah, so the perimeter
Yeah.
footing is already
Existing.
existing.
yeah,
Except
So-
for in the back.
yeah, I couldn't.
So that's why the variance is just on that one
His iPad, but
dimension on the back, right?
Yeah,
Well,
but I didn't
just the
see
other
that they
one's
were
already
requesting a
existing.
variance for that corner.
Right.
You're saying they have to request a variance for that 9'9"?
so,
Because that's an addition, it would be, it's outside of the.
yeah, it's already
Existing
non-conforming.
Right.
And so they're gonna add across the front, but those variances on the front are allowed to be approved by the planning commission. So long as it's in line with the average setbacks that are along that street now.
So 10 foot doesn't mean 10 foot necessarily.
Right.
I'm gonna see if I can get to Chesapeake Avenue and
Okay.
of course shrubbery.
And this house also has trees and neighboring trees that appear that it would be impacted by going up. In other words, the neighbor's trees kind of lean over this property from the left side. And I don't know if they have the right to trim the neighbor's trees that hang over their property.
You do.
They do.
Yeah, anything that hangs over your property line in the state of Maryland is yours.
Okay. So they would actually end up cutting down that tree.
But they are, yeah, the neighbors have,
That tree on the left side that's leaning over the property on this, you could zoom that in. Any other trees needing to be removed? There's another tree that I guess it's on the alley side. That big tree that the can, maybe it's just branches on that one though.
yeah, so that's in the yard in between the two properties.
In the alley, we had a little walkway there.
You said in the yard.
Well, there's a walkway on the right-hand side. There's like a 4 foot wide walkway between the two properties. Or it appears to be.
No, there's not.
Well, there are two fences that kind of
Which side? Left
on
or
the right side.
Yeah.
Right there. See the opening in the fence?
Yeah, no, they just didn't go all the way down. It's not actually a walkway. Their properties.
So that is property line all the way. Okay, all right.
But a big tree which on the right hand side is on that lot where it is.
Yes,
That's
it's on the lot to the right. So the blue house is
So they can trim that to accommodate the
Yeah, right.
28 foot height that they're building to. Building
Okay.
to 24'6" height.
So they're bringing that out. So
They're popping this up. So they're probably end up having to trim this tree.
It's a little bit forward. That's
That
back.
one. On the other side, on the left side.
Yeah,
This is gonna have.
There's a couple of houses. Like
So
one.
the lady that we approved, there was a lady remember we approved
they
the
can't force them to
Front
cut
driveway.
tree
The front
down.
driveway
They-
for the
they
one
go back
lady?
and cut
Yeah, but it's
her property was only 8.5 feet.
But,
Yeah, I can't. It's
this
not
side,
working at
That's
all.
the front. That's the front and the right side.
kinda.
Slowly.
So it's pretty much straight across now, so they're gonna bump it
Mhm. They're gonna
forward.
bump this forward and put the deck here. bump this forward, make it into a bathroom, like, check here. Off the top of the stairs, and bump out the back.
So how much of a
Kind of
variance?
squaring it all.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Rick.
Yeah, he's kind of just squaring the house off.
So, okay, so I'm looking at your notes and it says, so Board of Appeals. Recommendation is refer to Board of Appeals for side and rear setback variance.
Right.
And then, Planning Commission could either grant the front yard or push the front yard over to the
Right.
Board of Appeals, so they have all the setbacks. Cue me in, I'm looking at the existing footprint. Is it a square foot issue? I'm wondering about the side and rear, because we're essentially coming off the old footprint. Is it because what's driving the need for variance on that?
On the front,
Yeah, and the sides, because you're on the lot's skewed, the house is not square anyway, and it's existing, so. Or portion, the foundations at least are.
yeah.
Was
So
he
this-
intending the pool, is he intending, I thought this was a build up, not taking the foundations out.
It's not,
Okay, so,
it's not, it's
But
just,
it is.
it's squaring off what's there and then adding that small.
They get like a
second
1
story.
foot and 1 foot
Right,
increase on the sides, right?
Right.
Once they go up, right? Seems like the house was recently renovated.
they've been working on it
I guess
steadily for like 5 years.
Yeah, right.
Inside.
being super honest.
Yeah,
I think we ought to, since it'd be just another variance on there, take all the.
push it all.
Put
And
all
that's-
those to the Board of Appeals. Then they can do all the setbacks at one time. I'm looking at it, it's mostly a build on footprint. So
Correct.
I'm inclined to say, the variances they're asking for are essentially same dimensions. So I would recommend that let the Board of Appeals set the distance on those.
And the zoning also allows for those additions on the side, if they're already not conforming for the zoning administrator for my office to approve them, but because the house is skewed, it doesn't, if the house sat square, it wouldn't have to go to the Board of Appeals other than for the rear
Yeah, I mean,
setback.
it's like, yeah, if
But
you,
because it's skewed, it's actually increasing. It's increasing it on all three sides, so
understood. Yeah, I mean, if it was square in the lot, we wouldn't.
I could have approved the sides, you could have approved the front, and then the back would have been easy, but because it's skewed, the additions they're doing are gonna increase that non-conformance.
Right. But I think the tightest, even with the adjustment here, is what, 4 feet? On that one back corner?
Yes,
And then,
3, 8 or something like that, I think is what it is.
right.
And then that the front left corner, if you're facing it, that's a little bit closer than that 10-foot mark,
Right,
is roughly identical to the front of the house that you approved the driveway for.
Here,
Right,
it's
but
still
it-
gonna be,
it shrinks because of it doesn't sit square a lot.
Now, that house does have the 37.5-foot wide lot because they got half of the alley. There was an alley if you're facing the house to the left, there was an alley in between the two that was split.
Do they have an easement on that? What's the status of that?
No, it was quitclaim deeded to each side.
Okay, oh, so they have standard.
10 years ago. maybe.
Essentially,
15
yeah.
years ago.
yeah,
So that's not really
It was like,
to the,
it was just
to the
paper.
shared alley, right? So,
It was kind of like, that road over off of Annapolis that goes through the berm that was never really there.
In front of Gwen's old house, that sort of,
Yeah, okay.
I think it was just, I think it was actually a paper alley that was there from like the 1890
It probably
plat,
is,
and it
but
was just,
I never saw an alley there
no.
in all the years we've been here.
especially since the house was built, part of it.
Well, and
Yeah.
the one that in between them too, on the backside, there was a weird little alley that went through that was never actually there. Just on paper.
Is this did they recently survey?
They have had, yes.
Public surveys are fun.
Yeah, they are.
Well, that house does sit,
Calls to, because we are too, when we had to have ours surveyed.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, no.
Well, there's a ton of them are. Like I said, most of the only ones that really aren't are the new ones.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I mean, they're not really.
Appreciate that they went with, they pulled the dimensions and told us where it's a pinch, so.
Gonna be more runoff from, because there's gonna be more existing roof.
Actually, it's gonna be the same size roof. It's not wider at the top, so there'll be maybe 12 square feet. It's not much.
Just picked up from
And
one of, is
there's
it from one
actually-
of those deck roofs?
Yeah, so there's actually, well, and the decks are impervious now, and then that big shed in the back is probably gonna come out, so they'll probably end up being a net loss of impervious.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because see that steps back, it doesn't overhang the whole way. On that part.
Definitely think it's better than one of the ones where they just tearing them down and building 40 feet straight up. Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually looks like a pretty nice looking house when it's done.
It's a cute house. It really is.
And it fits the rest of the street fairly well.
So we want to make a motion on this one?
So,
You say you're gonna make a motion that
Push it
you're
off.
okay with the setbacks as is, and we'll push all of the approvals for the setbacks to the Board of Appeals.
Make a motion that we take the 8th Street category 1 that we're looking at, which is lot W6. Recommend that the variances for side, back, and front go to the Board of Appeals with Planning Commission recommending that they finish the dimensions and approve a site plan.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. On the hardwood, which I just don't have it against. Is the designer or builder on that property online, or? I was just gonna say, appreciate the dimensioning there. That's a big help. So,
So we had the architect do it. And then so I took 2 or 3 times back and forth when we finally got it all together, but
but that's really, like I said,
and the
that,
full water quality management plan is not done yet.
right.
I'm working on that for them now.
Okay,
But it'll be done. I've already notified the critical area commission, so. Like I said, it really depends on whether that big shed comes out in the back. If it does, it's gonna end up being a net law, be a net of
Gain,
impervious.
yeah,
There'll be a gain of pervious, so they may not have much to do at all,
no, I just,
hopefully.
that was really helpful, especially with the, the lot being a little bit skewed and the building kind of being the other direction, so thank
Well,
you.
when they first went out, they're like, they weren't sure, like, this isn't square. I'm like, I don't think it is.
It's like my,
Yeah,
not a straight line on it. Okay, what's our next one here?
9106 Chesapeake Avenue.
He's smiling over there.
Somebody say,
no, I'm trying to get something up real fast. I can get this stupid iPad to work. Now I might need to submit something to the council for some new IT equipment.
I chose not to get one. I don't like Mac.
All right, so this project came several months back. And there was some questions as to the legality of whether there needed to be a commercial space, not commercial space. How we determine setbacks because of the way the zoning code was written. And so there was an approval at that time for the 3-foot setbacks and a recommendation for the Board of Appeals, unless the attorneys came back with something that said there could be other things done here. So and that's what's in this attorney-client privilege document here that was given out. It is the way the ordinance is written, it absolutely can be just residential without the commercial aspect.
Rick, I'm looking at B. This is gonna be a multifamily home, right?
Yep.
And it clearly says, in CM district, the multifamily to be located on the second floor and
It's not what
above.
it says. What it says is when it's built as mixed use, the multifamily has to be on the second floor. Which the attorney said, if it is not proposed as mixed use, and there's nothing in that zoning ordinance that says it must be mixed use. And the reason they say that is because you can build a duplex in the CM with no commercial aspect at all. You can build townhouses with no commercial aspect at all. So you can't legally say some residential uses have to have commercial aspects and others do not.
I think we need to, not for this case because but I think we need to address this quickly.
Well, and then the thing, if you see, I kind of highlighted the yellow that basically what we can deal with for this evening, and then the blue is what we'll need to address at the work session to make the recommendations for the text changes to the zoning ordinance so that that doesn't come up again.
Well, I'm looking at it even more, residential development in the CM. Do we have then a distinct just commercial area? Because, I thought the whole concept here was to try and bring more commercial into town.
It was, unfortunately, the zoning doesn't say that it can only be mixed use.
The zoning doesn't say it can only be commercial, not mixed use. It's saying
I mean, it could be
everything,
mixed use. It doesn't say that,
everything's mixed
doesn't
use.
say that if you do residential in that area, that it has to be a mixed use.
Okay. What about the properties that apparently that's happened with?
There's been one, I believe.
I don't know if the same one that I know of, but we can talk about it later. It shouldn't be talked about now, but
But I mean, this is from the attorneys and their specialty is land use. And so,
So it came in as mixed use. Commercial, residential.
what
In the
came
commercial-
in, it just came in as an apartment. As
the
3-story,
first
yes.
Okay.
And so the question was, because of where it was located, whether or not it had to be commercial on the first floor with the apartments above or the condos above. And the questioning was because it says in parentheses, when mixed use, the multifamily has to be on the second floor. If that,
Can't be commercial in the front and residential in the back.
right.
That's the only thing that's precluded.
Well, and then when you look at the use table for setbacks, there is only one regulation for height or setback requirements in the CM. for residential, and that is a height restriction. Of 40 feet.
So ideally, he could build this to the property lines. Both
No.
sides. No,
No, so on the one side, there is a residential home,
Oh, okay,
but on the other side, it's commercial, and you could approve 0 setback on the one side.
Right.
The issue on the residential side is the balconies for me on the second and third floors, which extend to within a foot of the property line.
I thought the balconies were on, when you're at the street looking at it, on the left
On
side,
the right side,
they're on the right side,
so then on Mr. Hale's property side.
okay.
So now if Mr. Hale's property was sold and somebody wanted to build exact building reverse, those balconies would be 26 inches apart. Either that or Mr. Hale's property couldn't build what he built.
Easy to bar sugar.
Which,
No, yeah.
right?
Can I make a note on that?
Yeah.
We're gonna revisit the balconies. Even if the library is partially obstructed the view, just a little bit. So the balconies may move to potentially the opposite.
The commercial side.
So you're flipping the layout of the whole interior then, with the exception of the ground floor. With the exception of the ground floor where you have those angled cutouts.
I'm curious to see what the view looks like from 20 or 30 feet up in the air. They know how to do that right now.
Well, your balconies on the right side are the right side to get any view of the water.
You think so?
I do. Moving to the left side puts the library smack dab in the middle of the balconies. But my,
What Todd had told me, my thought was, if you position them on the left side, because you've got maybe a sliver on the right side, right between the condo and the library.
correct.
You put it on the other side,
You might
you've
look,
got a better view diagonally.
yeah, I just can't see building all the way up to the property line with those balconies. And to me, it would have to be in a line with the building. So it means reducing the
Well,
size.
I don't think he wants to actually move it over. I think he kind of likes it centered.
No, I'm talking about the balconies
Oh, right.
themselves, reducing the size of the overhang of the balconies
I got you.
to stay in line with
Yeah,
the wall.
I understand. I misunderstood.
Right. The other issue clearly is, well, there's some tree issues here too, right? You've got a big tree there that comes down, it says to be removed. There's also a big cedar on there that's not on here. And then if you are going to be, what are we, is this like annexing the alleyway for the purpose of this driveway?
So I don't think we've. So the gentleman who owns that lot that attaches to the alley,
One where you have
the easement
the easement.
listed. He was trying to schedule a meeting over the last couple of weeks to try and rectify that. We have not been able to secure that yet. That gentleman has also purchased several other large properties in town, and so kind of taking.
So that, I mean, the angle of that alley, driving down that alley and trying to cut that corner to that property line to get around Mr. Hale's corner is pretty tight. Plus, there's a significant grade drop from the alley of about 2 feet, going down to almost 4 feet to the corner of this
Well, the
lot.
turn is the same. It's 25 foot.
It's still a huge S turn where I think you're indicating there are going to be 4 cars parked here in order to comply with 2 cars per unit.
3 units, that would be 6.
Well,
There's-
2 in the front.
So that's the other thing. There is no requirement for parking for residential in the CM zone. It is all determined by you at site plan. There isn't anything that says it has to be 2 for every unit.
You could potentially have 9.
You can determine that, yeah. But there isn't a code that says it has to be 2 on site.
Weren't Weren't we, the last time we were talking about this property, saying not to have the parking in the front of the building?
I thought we said that, yeah.
We have 2 spaces in there.
Because it takes away from the whole street thing. It's different from anybody else. Sorry.
That being a state.
Well, no, the house just on the other side of that hill, the parking is in the front.
It is. Does that
Okay.
require any sort of, I mean, it's state highway,
No, that's ours.
261 is not state owned,
I don't
It's
know.
complicated.
Chesapeake Avenue.
It's, so there's a question whether Bay Avenue is the state's or 261 is the state. It was, he's a councilperson, he can answer.
So you'd be doing a double
So-
curb cut there all the way across the front of that property.
Yeah, the state did the full rehab on it. They still plow it, but it's ours. And they plow it because it's 261.
Like the sidewalks are ours,
Yeah.
we do
So
all that.
that's why I say like it's complicated. It's the town's road, but there's a weirdness with the state
No, we
So-
flipped, we flipped them.
because they used to have the 261 used to be Bay
They
Ave.
used to be 261.
yeah.
And then,
The boardwalk went
I
in,
know we did something at the state
yeah, to flip it.
to flip it.
Yeah,
So the Chesapeake is now 261.
yeah. But then when they did the full rehab.
There's
I
some
think
sort of
we
a shared
applied- yeah, Like we
responsibility.
applied some shared responsibility in it when we did the streetscape with the tree wells, the lights. And the sidewalk improvement where we did that.
So for us to add stop signs there, we go to the state. For us to add sidewalks or curb cuts, it's the town.
And does curb cuts.
Yeah. Like, we can't put speed bumps on 261, but we can put them on Bay Avenue. The state won't come in and do the sidewalks on Chesapeake Avenue, it would be the town. So the curb cuts wouldn't be an issue with the state.
Okay, well, you're losing 2 street spaces there, but you're picking up 2 for the off-site parking, right? But the back, the driveway in and out. Down that long alleyway. It seems like it's sort of annexing. The alley specifically and only to this property.
No, there's another house
Another house that
that has parking in the rear. And along Fifth Street, we have about 8 other houses that have parking along the rear accessing the alleys. 2 with large garages
Yeah, there are people, I walked it when it first came up. There
all
are-
over town. It's,
So we talked about that last time in terms of who owns it, who maintains it, who has to keep it clear and
Yeah, that was
Wow.
the issue, who maintains it. Does
I mean, the town may.
In
Don't,
the
they don't
alleyway,
plow,
in the back?
If the town's not plowing it,
they don't plow any of them. There wasn't an issue for any of the others. I mean, it wasn't though. I mean, maybe, but
well, it would be for this one though.
I mean, we have 2-story garages with apartments above them off the alleys that only have access from the alley.
and there's no requirement to
On
even
Fifth Street.
provide any off-street parking. So we could say you don't need to use the alley at all.
Yeah, there's no requirement. But like I said, it's decided by you all at site plan. Whether there is sufficient parking within the area, residential parking within the area.
So what were you saying about the easement on this other property? It's not quite done or?
No, I don't believe they've actually signed anything yet. Mr. Remender is interested in meeting to discuss that possibility because he wants to build a house on that lot and knowing that it will be a residential lot. And I believe the CMN's, his lot is residential. He will be required to have off-street parking and he would favor the parking in the rear as well. So that easement would then solidify both properties, but we have not been able to work out a date to do that.
It seems also, as I said before, with the grade changes that it would impact the lot. What is that, 25? It requires almost 4 feet of fill. What is that? What are those, the 25?
It's not 25, yeah.
25.
Okay, to the left of it.
So down at the corner of this property, there's about a 4-foot grade difference between the existing elevations and this property. Requiring, you need to import fill and place it, and then that changes the contours on both properties.
If we don't have the answer on the alley entryway for parking, I mean, we need to wait until we have something.
Well, that's if you determine that he has to have parking in the rear.
We know from our comprehensive plan survey results that a number of people in town do consider that there are parking issues, at least minimally up to serious parking issues.
This could potentially have 9 drivers.
Yeah.
9 vehicles. 3 2-bedroom units, husband, wife, kid, times 3.
I had a question on your string lines. So I was looking at your, on your elevations there. On the site plan. You've got the
Go
data.
easy on me 'cause Tom's not here.
Say again?
I said, go easy on me because everybody's on vacation.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. So the site data block shows you at 40 feet.
This is behind the home?
No.
No, the height.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I go to your building sections. And I got, what are we? Look, help me out here, okay?
Yeah.
Because I got 3 floors. Right? And then the roof line. So what am I looking at?
Is there a number?
12 and 6, 4, what are we doing here?
On it.
It looks like more than 40 to me. I didn't pull a scale on it because I didn't print the scale, so.
An
But
elevation.
that should match your data block, right?
All the pages are named the same. It's on the cut through sheet.
Oh, you're looking at the site data block, you said?
Yeah.
This is, he put in 40-foot max because that's what we cannot exceed. We're coming in at 39.5 feet high.
That's what almost all of them have been, right? When they do 3 stories.
Yeah.
39.6.
Yeah, just short.
Based on this again, I'm a little bit confused, but it's saying up to 50-foot building
No.
height.
There's not.
Okay, tell me, I mean, that's why I'm confused on all this.
50-foot height for a commercial mixed-use building. So if he were to add a business on the first floor, he could go to 50 feet. But if it's residential only, it can only go to 40.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, are these gonna be, these are apartments, not condos? So then that doesn't count as commercial?
No.
I mean,
Okay, so,
okay.
Is that,
gotta
Is
figure
that
out
true?
what
Is
we're-
that correct?
Yeah, it's still just a residential. Yeah. The residential, it only has a 40-foot restriction. Commercial mixed use has lists for everything. That's why the attorney says you have 2 choices to determine the rest of these.
They had design
I did get the
standards.
map to come up if you want that.
They
That's the
had things
topo
in
maps.
there.
What is it, 9106?
Yeah.
Design standards.
That's.
Yeah.
So that
Parking
grade
should be
change, I don't know what those numbers are, it's
So-
10.
So 10, so then
So,
it'll be 12,
It's
and
only,
then 14,
Yeah,
so it's 2
it's,
foot in the first 30.
But they're
not a
not
very large
even
slope.
gonna have,
It's
access to. the-
It's 4 feet. From the edge of the alley, it starts off at 2 feet here. Starts off at 2 feet here, drops down 2 feet, and by the time it gets to there, it's 4 feet.
I mean, these are the latest elevations.
I mean, I just walked.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, it's saying their data, their LiDAR data shows 14 feet 1 here.
Yeah,
And then this is 10 foot and the small lines are 2 foot intervals. So
yeah,
it's 14, 12,
Cool.
10,
yeah. It's not right.
8, 7.9.
So what happens when you're trying to, so he's trying to come in to the edge of his property, right? So all that, even though he shows this being a green space, right? And some of it hard space, it all has to be hard scaped or gravelled or something, because you just can't make, that's a real tight turn. The parking there, I just don't know how you do that. Very tight. And then, like I said, this from here, from this elevation to this elevation is 4 feet. So when you add fill in here to make this drivable, you've got basically a even greater drop there. And a pretty significant drop there.
I mean, they'd have to have the elevations run again, but the county's elevations show that it's 2 feet. I mean, that's,
I just walked,
they run it.
walking before I
Yeah.
came over here.
Oh, I trust me, been up and down it a dozen times.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be the first time they had that wrong. so.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Or it could have also changed. So
Change.
that house, when that house was demoed, there's a
They could've
very
pushed
good
up up
possibility
there,
that they not just pushed some up, but also removed some with the demo,
Mhm.
which caused a,
On the
Although-
Fifth Street lot.
yeah, yeah, there was a house that
Yeah.
it shows the house there now, but
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
So when they did that demo, there's a good possibility that they removed, they took some out or pushed it back like,
Mhm.
or a combination of the two.
So, you know, my issues are the parking, the grading, the balconies. And then additional tree removal. I mean, I think that if you're gonna use that alleyway as access. You need to.
Can say that there is
You got that.
in the back here.
14-foot trees gotta come.
You've got 3 trees here that are all going to be coming down based on code compliance that we're gonna make
This
them
one
take
here
that.
is the one that's shown on the drawings
Yeah,
here, but it doesn't show it coming out, but you can't use that driveway without
I
it.
know there's 3 large ones right here on the back of these. They'll all be coming out at some point.
And like I said, there's a nice old cedar on there. Of course, there's a huge oak, right?
And it's dead.
Huh?
That was one of the ones that was struck by lightning. It's
Uh,
split right in the middle.
there's a pretty good sized cedar on there too. Nice cedar.
Is there a landscaping plan?
Not yet. So because it's residential in the CM, it's very similar to what Mr. Russo had to do, preliminary site plan. Discuss parking, discuss whether you want to approve certain setbacks. Determine what setbacks you think are appropriate based on what the attorneys have said, and then whatever recommendations for the Board of Appeals would go from there.
Would you do something different if you had the lot next door combined?
Mr. Hale's lot.
Yeah.
You'd have 6 apartments now.
And it would be a substantially larger lot. And
Would you configure it differently? Would it still be apartments? Would you? I mean, I know it's off the cuff, but
I spoke with him about selling. We were about $600,000 apart. And that was the last conversation we had.
yeah, I believe he's.
He's a better negotiator than I am.
I believe he-
I felt like hiring him for all my deals.
I think he told him 700,000 and he'd sell it.
The 777
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
thank
it
you.
was. What they say, shoot your shot, right?
I don't think you'll ever, don't see him. Which I mean, part of me wants to say good for him, you know, hold out and be the last little cottage along that stretch.
No, that house will probably just fall into itself.
Hopefully not with him, it's not. Hey, Rick, we talked the other day about, I had asked you if there was, commercial parking, along Fifth Street on this block.
So Fifth Street has commercial, no, Fifth Street is residential parking
Commercial,
on Chesapeake.
not allowed to park on Fifth Street.
So it's,
I don't know, that's my
it
question.
is complicated. So if he was parking on Chesapeake Avenue as a resident, it's supposed to be 2-hour parking along Chesapeake Avenue. Parking on Fifth Street is any resident in town. And they don't enforce it tremendously, but if you go through here in the evening, other than if someone is using one of the businesses, Fifth Street is pretty much empty.
Well, especially that block.
Yeah,
One of the concerns I have is by the time you end up putting that curb cut in for your 2 parking spaces. And on the opposite side of Mr. Hale's property, there's another curb cut. So they're both cutting into his property, right? And he's only got a 25-foot wide lot. There's only one space that could possibly be there. And
is there a curb cut in front of Mr. Hale's property?
no, on the property to the right of him,
Right,
right? So, but I'm saying both curb cuts cut into his lane, right?
Right.
So there's only like one spot there, probably not even 20 foot in between there. Not that I know of if he has a car, but he would have no place to park. Or whoever
He
owned that
doesn't
lot.
drive.
I mean, it
But
would,
if he-
yeah, but in the
someone-
future,
Whoever
would be
was in that house
25.
would have one spot.
Could it
in
be
front of the
designated
house.
parking in some sense? I mean, I
yeah,
know
it would still be 23 feet. So it would be exactly one space.
but it could be monopolized by, this one who has, 9 drivers on it and no parking spaces.
Which is no different than someone on, say, Third Street where there's no assigned parking at all and has six vehicles.
I'm seeing designated parking signs for whoever's in your place running the business. I know it's not legit, but she's putting signs out there, designated parking only, but that's not a possibility for that one lot. Say.
No. At this time, it's not. I mean, as we go through the comp plan and zoning, parking regulations and parking code can change. Those are recommendations you can make. There have been parking studies that made recommendations for residents to be able to purchase a single space in front of their home. I think the biggest
Yeah.
issue we've had with parking was,
I would.
I would just-
yeah, I mean, most people would, and I think the price that was recommended by the contractor was relatively small, but it was, enough to help pay for enforcement, which at this point we don't have. And part of the reason is it's really difficult to enforce.
Right.
To
And
give
It
everybody,
leads to,
sure, I mean, the biggest, it leads to unintended problems, like you have a dinner party and you've got, the town has decided they're gonna give everybody 4 parking permits and 2 guest passes. You have 8 guests come to your house. Do the other 2 guests get towed and ticketed? How do they so it's really hard to figure out the enforcement end of it. But if it was a single assigned space, that's easy to enforce.
Served handicap on request, correct?
We do not, but the state does now do requested residential permits. Up until 2 years ago, there was no residential handicap parking in the state of Maryland. But MVA now does do them. They have to apply through MVA. And if they apply and get approved, then the town, we will
They go with the occupant or the address,
goes with the occupant.
no matter where they go, they can take that.
They have to reapply every time they move.
Okay.
So if somebody in a house needs a handicap spot in front of their house, they can apply. to
There
the
is a-
state of Maryland,
Correct. There is an avenue, there is a way to have that done.
and then the state will contact the town and the town will designate that spot in front of their house as handicap.
MVA will give them a sign or that lets them purchase a residential handicap sign they can install in front of the house that is enforceable by the sheriff,
By the town sheriff,
by the Calvert County Sheriff, correct?
Calvert County.
We could also enforce it. I mean, we can write parking tickets. We don't have anyone to do that at this time.
So are we done with the CM zone issue with regard to approved use?
Yeah, it is definitely an approved use.
So then my issues are going to be the balcony, and if you're planning or intending to change the, the floor plan and layout of the whole thing, it would need to be looked at again. Because right now, I don't see that balcony is something that is fair to the property owner next door, who may decide to do the same thing.
So because this is like a preliminary site plan, because of the CM zone, you can make the approvals for the side setbacks and the location now. And then it would be a easy approval at the Board of Appeals, but then it would have to come back to you to finalize everything else.
Apply to the ground floor. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's my issue.
So we have had several houses that 19-foot wide at the bottom and 21-foot wide at the top.
But that's my issue, is those balconies extend to within 1 foot of the property line. Guy next door wanted to do the same thing. They're only 2 foot away from each other.
Which unfortunately is allowed in the zoning. It isn't allowable.
But it would not be feasible or practical that.
I mean,
and
it's,
it sort of limits
it's a
what that
little
person
odd,
would do.
but it is allowed.
I don't think it should be approved like that.
It's a safety issue.
I think the closest setback that was 3 feet that you've ever done, that I know of. That since I've been on the board,
There's been a bunch of 2 feet.
since I've been on the board,
I think it'd be
Almost
remedied.
every house that's been approved along Annapolis Avenue has been 2 feet.
I thought that one, that,
The last one was 3 feet because there was so many people.
So.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to recap what we're trying to do here with this package. So this is a residential permit in the CM zone.
Correct.
It's coming in under residential. It's got a residential lot to the north and commercial to the south, which has 2 different setback requirements.
Right.
His block plan shows 6 parking, but that would be 2 in the front, 4 in the back, but there is no easement, so the back doesn't exist at this point.
Right.
Okay.
And no requirement for on-site parking.
There is no requirement for on-site parking.
However, there's front parking on that street for some of the other structures.
Right.
Um,
And 2 other driveways.
But it's within our purview, though, to put requirements on this.
You can.
And so that could include parking. I would be 3 apartments to say he's gonna cover it with 2 in the front. I don't think it covers all. If the back side of this thing doesn't get resolved, then everything comes in and out of those 2 front spaces. Okay, so access to the property, the whole bit. So I think we're gonna need to get that easement or that agreement, that's gotta be front and center.
Unless you think there's enough parking on Fifth Street, which was
No,
still within the 100 foot.
no, you're gonna have to, this,
I know, I'm
this
just,
is gonna have, this rear piece has to get resolved, one way or the other. Because it's either, yes, we're gonna get it, or no. Okay, no, then we'll bring it in, we'll take a look at it, evaluate it, whether or not we think 2 spaces
and so,
is reasonable for a structure, 3 apartments.
so as the site plan sits now, this board can approve the 3-foot setback on the left. Up against the commercial,
Yes.
and then make a single recommendation that you're okay with the 3-foot setback on the right. Would then come back to you for the resolution of parking. The balconies. And stormwater
And we
main.
got stormwater because the trees going and we got all that to work.
Well, that's gonna have to be. a
Because I
full-
think, if I'm not mistaken, are you pulling in some pervious on the backside of this thing?
That's what it shows.
So this plan will have to have a full critical area worksheet.
Right, that's where I was headed.
It'll have to meet
So-
all of those requirements.
So it's short on that, but I think what they're looking for right now is just to get a break line. Are we allowed to come in under
Right.
residential in the CM? I'm gonna say yes. And we gotta talk about it here, but then let's make
I
sure.
mean,
we
the
got-
attorney said yes.
Let's sort of make sure we got these conditions figured out, so when they come back in, they can address them, so.
Are we doing a garage in front? Because that's not. Fitting in the design standard.
No, I think it's just at grade parking in the front.
The garage doesn't fit within design standards.
Looking to keep the appearances consistent along the street. And while there are driveways, I can't recall any visible garages.
Not on that block.
Right, well, that's what,
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at. We're looking at that lot in that block.
I don't think, you don't have garages in the front, do you?
2 cars in front, 3 maybe, can't do 4, but you do 3.
9 and 9 is a space, right? 9 foot wide.
It's a 25-foot lot.
Right.
Choose it. I'd be leery to say you could
Well,
put a non-standard space in there. That's
No,
good.
yeah.
That's another, that would be another variance.
What we had was to push the structure back on the lot. If the alleyway was if not going to be 7. We could get full thing,
Well, again, that's speculation.
We can't get 4 abreast, right?
So I think we
No,
gotta get him in a category that he can submit
2 and
on.
2.
That's- So we need to get you into a category that you can submit. So that we have something we can then move to the different boards here. So when we've got the legal determination. I think in agreement, we gotta have it up or down. He's gotta create an up or down on that back side of this thing. Whether or not it's gonna be incorporated or not, because it matters. The balconies and how close they are, and then the setbacks, certainly. Again, residential in against the commercial property, 3 foot, I don't see a problem. We could ask grant a variance for 3 toward the residential. But we've got to take care of the overhang issue.
On the 5-foot side, on the commercial side, it's 5 foot, right? Setback. The way it's proposed right now.
3-6, I think.
Oh.
3-6 on one, 3 foot on the other. I believe
Okay.
is what it is. Is it?
It's pretty close to, so there's like 3 and 3. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So how?
And so the concerns, balconies, over top of the side setbacks.
I'll print on the bigger.
I'm just happy to see, because this is what I got, and it's not, yeah, that doesn't work.
No, so it's somewhere out here. So this is the commercial,
Right,
and by code, he could go right up to the line.
Right.
I think he's got 3 feet. from here. I have these glasses now. It's so
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
he's
three.
saying-
It's three. See, he's got two.
That's
Right there. 3 feet, he's got the two arrows.
That's the one. I was looking at the damn existing.
So he's got
And this is-
three. I
This
think he's
isn't a
got
building.
three on the other side.
This
Yeah,
is-
three point something on the other
No, no,
side.
this
But
is-
it's like
this
we
is
have
the-
balcony,
these are the
it's
setbacks,
fine on this
5
side.
foot,
Right, right.
20 foot, 5 foot.
Yeah.
This is
So
showing
we have
what
to
the
take a look
building
at
restrictions
orientation on
are.
that. Right.
On the
So
site.
theoretically, if he put his balconies on this side, which is commercial, he could go right to the line on the, if you will. On the air line.
2 and 3.
Right.
I would really not. Or hope not. I hope we can get it to a solution and not do piggyback on and put 4 cars parked in the front yard. On this property.
Love to not do,
Yeah,
but it's up to you of what. The same with tonight, I think, I'm fine with pushing the balconies in, that was Tom's design, and I'm not. I think we could just do a balcony in the front. I don't see-
Yeah, you could probably do one of those ones that's just the little half circle where you don't really get to walk out, but you kind of,
Well, I think it's a very
Or- or
desirable
what he
feature
just
to
said,
have.
the front, in the
but it
front.
doesn't have to
Why
be-
do the sides, do the
I think
front.
you're right. If you push it, towards Chesapeake Avenue instead of,
The side view gave the front facade a little bit of texture.
yeah, there's a different roof angle, roof there.
You could go 6 inches.
I said they have those ones that are just really walk out, but it kind of just opens up and gives a little bit of architectural design. They only come out about whatever.
Are you gonna, where's this, is it outside, like, how do you get to the second and third floor? Are you gonna have an elevator and then?
That's a great question. Depending on what we do with the rear. If we, utilize the rear, we'd have steps going up to the second and third. The original plan was to do an entrance for the first floor in the front and have the 2 parking spots going upstairs in the back. If we don't utilize the rear, Tom, the architect's idea was to do actually stairs in the middle of the building. Which I like because it's all enclosed by the main roof. And then it gives a break between the kitchen and living rooms at the front and the bedrooms at the back. So you have an entry off the little, deck area, which is all undercovered.
Okay.
Kind of similar to the one John Scott did.
I would lean heavy into, you need some parking. And I think if you could get, you proposed 6, and I know this is dated, but if you could provide 4, then arguably you've got 3 apartments, 4 spaces. We could make that discussion in terms of numbers of vehicles, but I think that works. And I think the whole permit look, if you can get an up or down on that back property issue, because then we can refocus when you bring this thing in on what you actually have, not what we're hoping to have, right?
Well, for the sake of the discussion, if I gave you a thumbs down on it right now.
I'm not gonna touch it.
You wouldn't have it.
No, not tonight. I'm not gonna touch that. No, it's too high. At this point, it's too hypothetical. I gotta get you.
Are you saying that
Set up
you're
to
pre-
come
you
back
pretty
in.
much know that he's gonna say no to you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But I hear some concerns, on the opposite end of the table. And it would certainly make the project easier if we eliminated the rears. And I know there's some people at the front of the alley that are not too happy about the project.
They're moving, right? They're moving.
It's the one that has the driveway already.
She thinks that alley's like part of her side.
The lady who already has a driveway is.
Norman,
Hmm?
are you talking about the short-term rental?
No,
The kettle corn used to be.
no, on Fifth Street,
on Fifth Street, sorry.
where the alley
Fifth Street.
starts. There's a
Why does
lady,
it say 6 spaces are required if they're not required?
where is it?
It's a public app.
You got it wrong.
Okay, that helps.
Our code said, yeah, if you look.
Yeah, able to-
You know, that's gonna be an awful lot of backing in and out of two
I-
sixty-one
I-
with jockey.
Here's what it talks about.
It's too much.
Only
What we
required
need to
market
do here
price,
is get
everything
you,
else
we're
is
gonna
designed,
get
you
you an
guys
update
determine
on so
whether
you
it's
can bring that
accessible or
further
not,
request that,
Okay.
yeah. Okay,
which is something else we can look to
Yeah,
I
change.
need you to, I'm gonna put a motion out here, because,
hang on, you sure? You ready for that?
yeah, I am.
All right, let's go.
Okay, well, here's my motion, is that this permit gets resubmitted as a residential property in the CM zone. So we'll look at the,
I thought that's what I had submitted this time.
right.
Yep.
Well, we don't have all these other pieces, parts done yet. So again, we'll have him submit in as residential in the CM. The 3-foot setback to the commercial property. We recommend approval of that. But we will need an updated site plan, site data block, and a statement whether or not the easements shown on the site plan are in effect or will not be in effect.
Okay, so you can make the recommendation that the Board of Appeals approves the 3-foot setback, the reduction on the residential side to 3 feet.
3'2" on one side.
And then you guys have the ability to approve the one
But
on the commercial.
I don't want to do the rest of the site until.
Well, you won't. It'll have to come back to you anyway because it's
But, I mean-
listed as a preliminary because of the CM zone. So it has to come back it has to come back to you anyway for final.
I think I'd prefer to have it tighter before we go for
Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals, so that we only have to recommend. He's got some things that he has to show. I'd rather get that done here and then we can recommend. to-
Because the only thing the Board of Appeals is gonna approve is the variance reduction on the residential
On the
side.
residential side, yes.
That'll be their only piece. What's that?
He
Well, wouldn't the
doesn't know.
Board of
He
Appeals have
needs a
something to say in
variance over
regards
on
to
the,
the parking if
on
he
the
wants to put
against the residential
4 or 6
property,
cars
not
in front?
against the commercial.
Nope, it's entirely planning commission.
I'm not even touching that yet. What,
No, the
What
Board of Appeals has to do that one.
okay, so. The problem is the permit in front of us or the request, there's a lot of moving parts. They're not
Moving.
they're not locked in, so I can't really do anything yet. We know what we're gonna categorize it, residential in the CM zone.
Yeah.
There's a 3-foot setback shown against the commercial property, that's in compliance.
Well, it's 5 foot, but the planning commission can reduce that to 0.
We
That,
will
right,
accept the 3-foot,
Proposing 3'.
right.
Right.
we'll accept that. So then we're looking for a revised site plan and determination on whether or not the backside of the property, the easements for parking and access are either going to happen or not. Because if it's not going to happen, I don't want to see it on the site plan. Needs to go away and the rest of the site has to be as if you're gonna build it. Right now, I have conjecture, not.
So balconies, rear parking, easement,
Residential side setback.
well, that goes to the Board of
We will
Appeals.
send that to the Board of Appeals. Let's see this, if you will, cleaned up and reorganized, and then we can.
Well, what's to keep you from just saying, well, I'm not gonna do the rear parking then?
That was my point.
Just not gonna do it.
But then I'm
It's
just
not
gonna,
required, not gonna do it. Take it out.
well, then I'm just gonna reject the permit out of hand, because I don't know what I'm looking at.
If we're saying it's not required, on-site parking is not required, and then we're saying.
It's not, but it does say that you determine. Says all others are subject to site plan review and approval, so you can approve.
And in us doing that creates other issues.
But we can't address any of that until we get that one piece there answered.
If he finds out that he can't do rear parking, then he can move the building back, put the parking, some parking in the front. He can present it that way. He can then show that the balconies are on the commercial side
Or the front side.
or the
yeah.
front side, which probably would be great. You got a lot, you got 75 feet there. You got a lot of room to play there. Yeah, it would clean this up so that we know what we're looking at.
But it gives him his categorization, right? Puts him into the officially coming in as a residential in the CM.
Which we need to address. Not with him, but for the future. I'm gonna tell all my friends who have properties that have been wanting to do that, to do it right now.
Yeah.
That's a motion.
Hmm.
I can't remember things. But I'll.
So I'll
second.
make a motion.
So do I have I just
Yeah,
want to make
think
sure I
you
have everything so
everything
that when I get together with Josh, we can get everything
Yep.
exactly the way you want it. So it's balcony, anything else? Rear elevation.
Tree removal. If that's associated with both parking and on-site.
So the tree removal will be addressed in the critical
Show
area.
On the plans.
Yeah, well, when the critical area stuff would be submitted with the final site plan review, so that'll be there. And then the rear parking and easement. And that's it, right?
The height.
Height is gonna be less than 40 feet. The height's good.
Well, I'll have to make sure it's on his dimension
Yeah.
sheets.
The what?
Uh, Science standards are recommendations, not requirements. Believe is the way that's written.
Right. Well, and the gentleman who's doing it has done a ton of buildings in town, so he's fairly familiar with them. Tom Reinecker has done quite a bit in town.
What's your timeline for breaking ground on this?
I apologize, I thought we submitted the application as residential in the field. So if it wasn't that way.
No, it was, but the question was that we weren't sure whether or not it was allowed. So the submittal is correct, but the parking, like all the other issues, the site plan has to be submitted exactly the way it's gonna be. You want it approved.
So, right, the board had a step it had to make. Based on the town's legal recommendation, so that's what we're gonna do.
And it just took a while to get that back. We asked them for several interpretations on things, and so it just took a while to put everything together.
Yeah,
I can set the meeting up with Bill for
right from March.
next Thursday, probably.
Why I would like, I.
Let's get one or two of them.
Talking about.
Let's get one of
parking,
them.
but It's not required, right?
And I don't know why.
That's why. I
It's been so far.
wanted to bring it up.
It couldn't be recorded.
Yeah, I mean,
If we deemed it to be required.
right, if they say that you need this many spaces, they can do that. And what we can do is we can look at,
What prevents us from doing that now? I mean, he kind of needs a direction to go, right? Whether we're going to require on-site parking or not. Should we-
No, it's all hypothetical, because I mean, what if he comes in what if he gets the easement or an agreement? I mean, that's materially different.
Well,
And if he doesn't,
if we
so-
said that we were going to require on-site parking, he would be,
you either have to
More
get the easement in the
negotiable
back or
with this.
move the building.
yeah,
back.
But the request shows parking. It's
Uh,
listing
it
parking,
It
so
does.
I'm reviewing it, and it says there is going to be parking. So he should come back in and say, there is no parking.
it's sort of voluntarily on his point, but I get what you're saying, but is it the, the cart in front of the horse? I don't know.
Okay, well, I appreciate all your time.
Well, I understand what he's saying. The site plan, if you agree that the 2 parking spaces in the front is enough, you can't approve a site plan that still shows parking in the rear and an easement. But then it would still have to be resubmitted with that piece removed, which they would have to do anyway, because you couldn't submit that to the county with that on there. County would make you take it off as well. Right?
Correct.
Is that, yeah.
So,
How far can you push that building back to your back?
To within 20 feet of the,
So that gives you
go
about,
ways back.
I'm just trying to think if it was pushed as far back as you could, you might be able to get maybe not head on, but more parking.
actually, he could push the building all the way back to the property line. There is no rear setback requirement in commercial property.
But it's not commercial, it's residential.
Mm.
Cause I'm already confused. Don't keep doing it to me.
Can't go back.
So then you have 2 options, because you don't have a rear setback required in residential in the commercial zone. So then you have to go back to what the attorney said was, you then either go by what is listed in the commercial zone for setbacks, or you go by what the average is.
So what's well, we don't know but what I'm saying is, could it be pushed back enough? Whereas then in
Theoretically, like I said,
parking,
you could
then
push it all the way back to the
you
property
drive
line.
in and then you park to the side.
I mean, my opinion is it looks really fun.
I know, well,
It was horrible.
yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't want to build that.
but then again, ideally, you probably will have, I don't know, 4 to 6 cars. And if you don't provide parking, these people are gonna be coming and parking in front of Elizabeth's house or someone else's house. Or they'll be parking there, and the commercial businesses that are along the road won't be able to have anybody park, come to their business.
Well, I thought about that actually. I mean, assuming you allow me to build it, I can put in the lease, that no parking. Any of the tenants or any of their parties is allowed on Chesapeake Avenue.
How do you enforce that?
Go over, I live like 2 blocks away. So, and it's also, I'm not gonna do Airbnb, so. I could even have the ability to say, you only get 1 parking spot, for your unit.
Well, I see them all parking in the municipal parking area or in the senior center or something like that. I mean, there's no, and then that affects all the businesses.
The reason I brought up Fifth Street is there's Titan's Garage on that corner to the south. Then there's Iggy's Hair Shop.
Right.
Both of those are commercial, but along Fifth Street, I didn't think that commercial parking was necessarily allowed. I thought all that was residential.
I believe it's supposed to be residential parking.
So my point of bringing that up is that's totally walkable to this building. I think it's like less than 50 feet, and there's no homes that those parking spots along Fifth Street would correspond to right there on either
Let's see what it said about distance.
number of spaces.
That's fine. But
Carrying grocery,
Or training.
it's not.
Maybe you can do something with the overnight parking with the hair salon next to it.
Or with the library.
I believe the code calls for parking off-site that is within 500 feet of a building as an allowable. But then you would have to find that there's enough available residential parking within 500 feet to accommodate what's there.
Well, and once the library is done, that. Fifth
But
Street
you don't have a
along the way.
parking plan to look at that says this is how many, so
Right,
that's what, and I can help you with that because we have So then you could submit that parking plan that shows this is where all of the available residential parking is.
I hate to say it, with the apartment, you also sell monthly parking at Russo's parking lot.
Oh, I've already talked to him about it.
Okay,
Yeah. And I don't think logistically it's a problem. It's really up to you all. What you're going to approve and that's why I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on the back. Because if that's not necessary. I will come back with that.
I'd like to see a parking plan of some
I'd
sort.
like to see a parking plan within the context of the entire town.
Yeah.
If otherwise you're patchwork quilting it again, for
Mhm.
lack of a better term, and that's what we've done. And that's why we're in this problem. And now we have a comprehensive plan that's supposed to address that.
And
And
it
I'm
doesn't.
just waiting to see what comes out of that. Out of context for the entire town, you only have 3/4 of a square mile. How many cars you gonna fit for one building?
I think I covered that.
I believe it.
Okay.
Disputing that, I'm saying.
So
he's talking
I'm
the
looking
wrong
for
thing.
this gentleman to bring the permit back in. Okay.
We're
Not
getting
gonna,
used to
I'm
seeing
not
you
gonna have a,
anyway.
I'm not gonna have a design charrette today on parking. Okay.
No,
We're good with that.
I've got everything written down, so next thing you get will be, just go down and check.
Thank you.
I know you like to go down and do your checklist.
So does that require a motion or is it gets tabled or what?
Liz, can you read that back to me?
So you would make a motion that he resubmit with the parking plan?
Okay, so this is the multifamily residential lot S3. Recommend resubmittal for the following requirements, parking plan. Showing setbacks to the commercial and then proposed on the residential side. Adjustment on the
Balconies?
dimensioning on the balconies. We need that true to the line, see what we have.
Then a proposed parking plan.
And then the proposed a notional parking plan showing us potentially what you're gonna do with that. And if there's any easements, they have to be included and documented. Again, anybody second that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
sure.
All right, so you guys are gonna do your minutes and I'm gonna go talk to Josh.
Okay.
I'm okay with the little dashed line things, where you show potential, how far away you are, all that kind of stuff. However you want to describe it, show it, demonstrate it. All right,
That'd be nice.
All right,
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, who's gonna be the minutes reader?
Can we do it while Rick's gone?
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
yeah, let's do this.
Read fast.
Now, there were a whole bunch of them up there, from going back as far as
So how
March,
many do we have up there?
March. going-
There are 4. The first one is March 23rd.
I don't know about you guys, but I gotta get home at some point here. So do you want to do two of them?
To make the motion?
We can make.
No,
motions
no,
to
no,
approve
go
them.
over the minutes.
Oh, I don't have.
There's a mistake in March,
Yeah.
Where is it?
under replanning of 8834 Frederick Avenue.
Okay.
Where it says the applicant is proposing 2 lots, one 25-foot and one 40-foot. That does not add up to 75 feet, which is the total width. So a
Yeah,
number is off there somewhere.
No, it's saying that the lot's currently one at 25 feet
And the
wide
second
and
is
second one.
50.
Oh, okay.
And then it says the applicant is proposing 2 lots, one 25.
And I think it was
one 40.
35. I think it was,
it should have been 35, but needs to be fixed.
right. So.
So if you make the motion to make that adjustment, Stacy then will
that's easy.
fix it.
So I move that on the minutes for March 23rd, 2023, under this section entitled replatting of 8834 Frederick Avenue, that the numbers in the next to the last sentence be corrected to read 135 foot and 140 foot.
I'll second that. Aye.
Aye. Were those the correct numbers or, I mean, were they? I don't remember what that was back then.
There was a lot of discussion.
Yeah, it looks like there was just a mistype where it said 125 and 140. It then followed the statement after that saying the plan commission is making a recommendation to
Oh.
replat as 35 and 40.
Okay, got it.
So it was just that
That's
top 25 needed to be a 35. Then the next ones are from April 27th.
And there was something also about an issue with this one. And which is why we had to table it.
I
The
think,
moratorium was added to the minutes. Okay, so yes, because there was a huge discussion on the moratorium of anything, any new businesses. No, of short-term rentals.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the short-term rentals. So a motion, okay, do a motion for to make changes to the April 27th minutes that would include the discussion regarding the moratorium in the minutes. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Anybody want to say aye?
Aye.
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 Anybody want to take the May one? Is there any issues with that? Anybody knows of? It's about the survey. Oh, it's about the survey.
Sneak it over your shoulder.
It's okay. That meeting, we talked about the survey that was done, and we wanted to include or try and get more feedback from a younger group.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Nope, that's it. Yeah, we didn't do, that was it that we did.
Oh, you have it up. Okay.
So I think
Think we can approve that one?
approve this one because it.
Yep.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the May 24th minutes.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. June. Erie Avenue. Okay, that was easy. It's about this letter. Town not issuing, this is about the ordinance about parking.
Right, right. I think that gets.
We were supposed to do a Zoom session, but we didn't do that.
Correct. That got canceled.
So that we could discuss the,
Essentially, the letter we sent, or the document.
no, that one's about parking. Oh, yeah, this, okay, about parking.
Right.
So, but can we approve this one? I mean, is there anything different or wrong on it? You want to see it? Or you have, then you don't have to see mine.
I don't think it was at the meeting.
I don't think.
Okay. I think I dialed in on that. Was I on the
Yeah,
road on
we
that
zoomed-
one?
we
It
zoomed
was
that one.
driving. I
So,
do remember this discussion about. And that was going to get out,
to table all minutes until next week, second one. Yeah,
and we saw, and you guys read the letters,
yeah,
right? It was out of it, right? Okay, make a motion to approve the June 22nd minutes.
As written.
Aye.
aye. So we did that. I know that Rick said something, he wants to set up a time, a date, so we can have some meeting
Before the next meeting.
before the next meeting.
So now we're just waiting on Rick.
And are we still being zoomed?
Yep, we're still being zoomed and recorded.
Okay, then I guess I can't leave yet to go. I want to use it.
You can probably go to the bathroom while we're waiting for Rick to come back.
Well, thank you there, council member.
It's like if you're waiting for him, so you guys can
Settle
make
down,
the
okay.
decision on the meeting dates on record. I think you're probably good to go.
We'll wait to close.
Yeah. Well, no,
We gotta have,
Rick,
there we go.
did you want to set up a date to do a meeting?
I'm available, any date you guys are available.
Wednesdays are better for me than Thursdays because
And this is a off-cycle meeting for, so one of the working meetings you
One of
talked
the
about,
work sessions, yeah.
2 weeks or what? I don't know what people's vacations are, so.
Yeah, I don't,
Want to have Stacy send out an email with a
Yeah.
couple of dates and then we can all pick
Pick
from one that way.
Yeah. Full, take the best.
that would be the smartest thing to do.
Yep.
Or, she can maybe pull a few dates up and.
Yeah, I'll have her send 2 or 3 because that way she can send one to Jerome as well because I think he's still out of the country.
Yeah. Middle week of August?
14th, I think.
And I believe, Mr. Aronson will be at the next meeting as well, so he has some updates from the state. No, the next work session.
We are going to address some of these issues on the comprehensive plan, correct?
We are, but the comprehensive plan is a much broader document than the zoning is. The comp plan doesn't really deal with specifics. It's basically a general direction that you want to go.
Gives us the direction and tells us what the highlights are and where our emphasis should be.
Okay.
What are the critical
Well,
things that we want to accomplish?
Wouldn't that actually have been done? The comprehensive plan been done prior to addressing the zoning?
I mean, you address the zoning throughout the year. The only reason we took a step back was to get the comp plan started.
There's something missing in between the comprehensive plan and the zoning. From a project management standpoint, there's something missing.
I think,
Because how can you go from a 50,000-foot document to a 5,000-foot execution decision without knowing what your guiding is in specific areas that are critical to the town besides just flooding?
right, which is why I said the comprehensive plan should have been done. But I see you got to pick up.
The
on zoning,
comprehensive plan was done. We have one. It was done 10 years ago.
Which needs to be
And so
updated.
now we're updating
Right.
it, but your zoning updates constantly over the course of that time. Like you wouldn't wait 10 years to make zoning changes if there was something that came up that was necessary.
No, absolutely. It's a living document. I get that.
And it's very specific,
Right.
right?
But I mean, just some issues like today about, residential in commercial, in the commercial, area. I mean, I don't believe that was the intent of the town 10 years ago.
And that's what the attorneys are saying. If that's not the intent, then it needs to change.
Right.
So that
You-
is the problem. Happen now, my opinion, is that our budgeting process is an annual budget process that looks like you're making decisions based on the balance in your checkbook instead of having a future year plan that says over 5-10 years, this is what we want to accomplish. And here are the major things that we need to accomplish. So that leaves too much discretion on whoever is making the decision that this is what needs to happen, and it gets swayed by public opinion and, whoever has some voice. And so there is no accountability to the bigger issues that are affecting the town, like parking, and parking keeps getting kicked down the road. In February, when the lady on Third Street brought up parking again, I completely ignored it because all she was doing was caring about Third
Oh,
Street.
yeah.
When it came to council, Greg made a move that we need to go back because we've had studies in this town that have said, here are the things that we should do. And I've been here long enough to know what some of those studies said. I don't know all the studies. So his move, I think, was to go to that comprehensive look that says, overall, this is what the town needs. That's a lot of analysis that needs to be done by a planner. And on a regular basis, and I walk around town at least twice a day, you know, I got a dog and they do that. So, you know, I see the irregularities in residential parking where over time, we've allowed people to extend their property line into places that are really town easements that should have been for parking. So now when you go back and you have to do that, it's going to be a mess.
Mhm.
And I can guarantee you, God tells me that nobody ever went back and extended the books on those property lines. So those people are paying, now should be paying property taxes because their line has been extended. So, you know, it's just a mixed match of craziness, and it's going to take an engineer and a planner to figure out what it's going to take to unravel that. And, you know, somebody with a contracting degree and, you know, some other career path besides that is not the right person to make those decisions on a daily, annual basis.
Okay, I do have an engineering license, but I'm not designing this.
That's why he's got the big printer that does the big papers.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I'm not gonna design it, no.
Okay. Close.
yeah. Motion to close this meeting at 9:08, I think.
Second.
Aye.
Are we off Zoom?
One moment.